50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the character. 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
You have no idea. You know hard drives can be manipulated.
Are you suggesting the New York Post participated in a conspiracy to construct the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop?
No, sir. The problem is that hard drives can be manipulated by Rudy Giuliani or Russia.
Well, what's the evidence that happened?
From Donald Trump.
So hard, yeah.
When you see him promising this wholesale takeover of the Justice Department, I wonder how...
Wholesale takeover, that's what happens when you win the election. You get to control the executive branch. What a stupid question this is. Transcripts confirm the FBI covered up the Hunter Biden laptop story. We already knew it, but now it's official. It's on the record. In court records, court transcripts have been dropped courtesy of our friend Marco Polo USA. You know who they are, the purveyors of the report on the Biden laptop. But we heard previously that the FBI agent testified that the jury got to hear testimony from the FBI that there was no tampering with the laptop, which was the Democratic talking point. It was Russian disinformation. Now, that was from Wendell Hosibo. We heard from Garrett Ziegler that was the testimony in court as well, and they have released the transcripts, which we will read. All relates to this big lie that the Democrats shoved down our gullets in collusion with the CIA to rig the 2020 election, and now the intelligence hacks are freaking out. They're ready to flee the country, says Andy McCabe, which good riddance to him. But here is what the transcript said from the trial. So here is the testimony. Remember, FBI agent Jensen is on the stand. This is the Hunter Biden trial. We had just finished up from a break. Jury comes back 1:59 p.m. We are back with Agent Henson. Government prosecutor is doing the direct exam and says, Agent Jensen, before the break, we were talking about Hunter's autobiography, where he was talking about the California Odyssey. Is that right? Yes. And that was an exhibit where Hunter was describing the events of the year 2018. Remember that? Yes. Now, at this point, I'd like to ask you if during the course of your investigation, you sought to obtain information that corroborated his admission in this chapter. So he explains in his audiobook that he did these things. Did you corroborate that? Yes, we did. What kinds of information did you obtain to corroborate that? Well, some of the records were phone records, subscriber records with phone records, and we had bank records, says the FBI agents. Can you move that microphone a little bit closer to you if possible? She says, yeah, hang on. Did you prepare a summary chart that summarizes all of the electronic evidence that you've seized here? Yes. And we're going to take a few minutes to get there, but I'd like you to help us explain how we got that electronic evidence, the laptop and other devices. Yes. What phone records did law enforcement initially obtain? FBI says, well, we had phone records, subscriber call records, show the back and forth between numbers for 3 phone numbers that Mr. Biden used. And I want to show you these 3 exhibits and take a moment to look at those. What are these 3 exhibits, FBI agent Jensen? So this is a wireless subscriber information from AT&T for 3 phone numbers. We got it subscribed to Robert Biden. Move to admit, no objection. Thank you. They're admitted. And Ms. Vo, can you display 22A? Talking to the tech agent Jensen, can you describe what this record shows on the screen? So this record, says the FBI, which does have some redaction boxes for personal information on the top. You can see financial liability party, billing party. This is information for a telephone number ending in 9396. And if you zoom in on that page where it says user information, is that the phone number you read right there under this box? Yes. Is this the record you received in response to a subpoena that your investigators received? Yes, this is a record we received on April 5th of 2019. The FBI got this April 2019, just to be clear. It identifies Hunter's name, right? As well as associated with that number? Yes, so that's Hunter's number. Now, turning to the next record, is this another response to a subpoena from AT&T? Yes, FBI says so. This came back as part of the same subpoena return, so as part of the same subscriber record. This phone number is 3313, also by Robert Hunter Biden. And that second phone number that you learned was affiliated with Hunter, yeah? Yes. What is the phone number here? 2473. Who is it listed under? Robert Biden. And is this the party that's listed the financially liable party? She says, yeah, it's both. So at the top, it shows Robert Biden as well. And then the user information will typically be the person the number is associated with, at least per the record. So if we zoom out, we look at that date. When were these records provided to law enforcement? Oh, they were generated on 4/5 of 2019. So we would have received them on or just after that date. So they covered all of this up. The FBI was coercing social media companies to silence the FBI laptop story, the laptop hack story. They knew about it. After receiving this information from AT&T about Hunter's other phone numbers, did investigators issue other subpoenas? Yes. That is an example of an entity. What is an example of an entity that you sent a subpoena to? Well, after that, April 16th of 2019, 2019, we sent a subpoena to Apple. What is Apple? Well, they make iPhones. Did they give you a response? Yes. What did that response show? Oh, it showed it would be considered supplier record, showed a purchase history by device associated with Apple IDs, which are associated with a person, and registration information for devices and other subscriber information, all associated with Robert Hunter Biden or Hunter Biden. Oh. Did those records correlate in some respects to the phone records that you got from AT&T? So Apple matches AT&T. Yes, you could see in the records that the phone numbers came back from AT&T that were associated with various devices every time. Was there an iCloud account associated with the Apple records? Well, they didn't provide at that time the contents of the iCloud, so it was just subscriber records, but you can see in some of the records there were iCloud-like services that were subscribed to. Well, what is an iCloud service? So iCloud is essentially a way to replicate your data across your devices. For those who have multiple devices, or as a way to back up your phone, and you can find your phone. You can get your information put back on your new phone. It's essentially a remote server controlled by Apple where you can subscribe to and leave your data on the server. So as opposed to needing to physically plug it into something, there's a way to just upload it to the cloud. Right. The service changed over time, but essentially you can back up your devices to the cloud. Another option is you can back up your device to a computer. Any computer actually that uses iTunes, in that case to back up the device on a mobile computer. So the subpoena did not provide you with content from iCloud at the time, correct? Correct. Did it provide an email address or iCloud address for Mr. Biden? Yes. So there were Apple IDs, which are typically an email address. Sometimes it's not an email address, but you can use your email address, your Apple ID, and there were some provided. What was one of those iCloud addresses? Oh, rhbdc@icloud.com. Robert Hunter Biden, DC at iCloud. Did the investigators ultimately obtain content from Mr. Biden's iCloud account? Yes. How did they do that? They sought and obtained a search warrant from this courthouse, actually for the content in the iCloud account. So a judge issued a search warrant for that information. I believe that was August 29th of 2019 that warrant was issued, way before the election. How did the investigators get the data? Well, Apple requested a hard drive for the data, so the investigators sent a clean or a new hard drive to Apple. Apple provided the data. We sent them a fresh hard drive. The Apple downloads from the cloud, puts it on the hard drive, and sends it back. Mr. Hines, Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Agent Jensen, FBI. I'm showing you what's been marked as Government Exhibit 15. Do you recognize that? Yes. What is it? This is the hard drive that was sent to Apple and then returned to the investigators with the search warrant returned. I move to admit Exhibit 15 into evidence. So they have the direct copy from Apple of everything. No objection. Thank you. It's admitted. Hard drive goes in on the record. FBI agent, can you please hold that up, Agent Jensen, for the moment? She holds up the hard drive like trophy. Can you please hold that up? What kind of data did investigators derive from that hard drive? Well, there were emails that were obtained from the iCloud, returned for iCloud backup. So basically a backup for 4 different devices was recovered or extracted from the data. Did these backups, did these extractions have evidence of the defendant Hunter's addictions on them? Yes. Did that include evidence of addiction in the year 2018? Yes. Are there 2 backup files that investigators utilized for evidence in this case? Yes. What backup files were those? So we named them backup 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 is a backup of an iPad Pro. So that one was the one that we used. The second one we used was Apple Backup 4, which was an iPhone SR. Were both of these devices registered to Hunter based on the Apple records? Yes. So the extraction report that came from these backups showed that there were information, including these things like phone numbers and MIMEI, that associated these devices to Mr. Biden. They knew it was his. All that information was true. Did you independently verify that the Apple records to make sure that they correlated with the AT&T records so they were the same? Yes, I did. That was an iPad and an iPhone. Separately, did law enforcement also later obtain Hunter's laptop and his external hard drive? Yes! How did they come to receive it? So in late 2019, FBI agent says, the FBI received a tip that there was a laptop at a computer repair store shop called the Mac Store here in Wilmington, Delaware, that had been abandoned by its owner. They ultimately obtained a subpoena and they recovered the equipment from the computer store. May I approach, Your Honor? You may freely approach. Don't have to ask me. Thank you. I appreciate that, Your Honor. FBI, I'm showing you what's been marked as Government Exhibit 16. Can you look at this? What is this? This is a laptop that was recovered from the computer store. The trophy. Did investigators ultimately extract data from that laptop? Yes. How? So they used forensics. FBI and other federal officials used forensic tools. Actually, I think it was just the FBI that used forensic tools to extract the data from the laptop. And was the FBI or law enforcement authorized to look in the laptop? Yeah, so after this laptop was received, the search warrant was obtained for the data in the laptop. So ultimately, in examining the laptop, were investigators able to confirm that it was Hunter Biden's laptop? Yes. How? Well, among other things, there was a serial number that's on the back of this laptop that matches the Apple subpoena records that they obtained in 2019. So it matches the registration of this particular device to the iCloud account at the particular date. And is that serial number ending in HB29? Yes. And that's also in the Apple records, you said? Yes. So from the data from the laptop and the hard drive, what did you do next? Or what did the FBI do next when assessing the addiction evidence? Well, so the data that was extracted from both the iCloud backups and the laptop, investigators were able to go through largely WhatsApp messages, iMessages, text messages, and found evidence of addiction within the messages. So they moved to admit the hard drive and the cell phone data and the laptop. Now, you mentioned being able to corroborate that this was in fact Hunter's laptop, right? Did you also see information on the laptop when it was examined that showed that he had dropped it off at the Mac shop? So there was an email that was obtained from the iCloud warrant that showed an invoice from the Mac shop to Mr. Biden. So yes. Is that the email you referenced? One second. Yes. So they moved to get the email admitted. And Agent Jensen, what does this show? Well, that's an invoice coming from the Mac shop to RHB DC at iCloud, showing there was an $85 charge due and another invoice date. Now, you said Apple Inc. provided you with this production from iCloud. Yes. Is that correct? Yes. Using the data now from the two sets, from the iCloud, that's the hard drive, and the laptop, did you prepare a summary chart of all this data? Yes. Well, why did you prepare a summary chart? In total, when the data is provided to us from the forensic examiners, it comes back in a report. We have a very large PDF, primarily photos and all sorts of things. So the total between the 6 files that we have is over 18,000 pages. Whew. So it's voluminous, very voluminous. And were the full files of the 18,000 pages provided to the defense in this case? Yes. And I'm showing you this summary chart, right? Yes. What is this? It's 75 pages. It's a timeline, and they move for admission of the chart, fairly summarizing and describing all of the underlying data. So the laptop was real. The FBI knew it was real. They knew it was Hunter's in 2019. When the story broke, they put pressure on the social media companies to censor the story. X, Facebook, all of them buried, canceled the New York Post, shut them up. And then the FBI agents didn't communicate about any of this when asked and buried the story to rig the election. Now, it's worse than that because the CIA also created a cover story that was embraced by the Biden administration thanks to Michael Morell and Anthony Blinken, one of the dumbest people ever to be in a position of power in this country. Got promoted because of the fact that he put forward the lie. You remember this lie, which is now proven to be 100% untrue, from Joe during the debate.
50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
This is
Liars.
classic Trump. We have 4 days left, and all of a sudden there's a laptop. There's overwhelming evidence that from the intelligence community that the Russians are engaged.
I still think that the stories from the fall about your son Hunter were Russian disinformation and a smear campaign, like you said.
Yes.
Lie, lie, lie.
It's the last-ditch effort in this desperate campaign to smear me and my family. The vast majority of the intelligence people have come out and said there's no basis at all.
All lies. And he lied directly to all of us. The FBI lied to us by omission. CIA lied to us directly. They promoted Anthony Blinken as a result of it. Dan Goldman's still been promoting this lie. Remember what he said when he was dealing with Eric Schellenberger, who was testifying against his incorrect misinformation. But here is Dan.
You have no idea. You know hard drives can be manipulated.
Are you suggesting the New York Post participating in a conspiracy to construct the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop?
No, sir. The problem is that hard drives can be manipulated by Rudy Giuliani or Russia.
Well, what's the evidence that happened?
Well, there is actual evidence of it, but the point is it's
There's
not
no
the
evidence
same
for
thing.
it, so you're engaging in a conspiracy.
I'm glad
theory.
All right, so Dan Goldman is just the worst. He got blown out of the water today. They all knew the laptop was real. They're just propagandists, and we've been vindicated. People who've been doing good work on this, like Miranda Devine and people at the New York Post and Garrett Ziegler and many others, you know who they are, all vindicated. FBI covered it up because that's what they do. They're just a propaganda arm for the DNC. And now they're freaked out. Remember Andy McCabe was the guy behind a lot of the Mueller investigation and the Russia collusion hoax and a lot of other malfeasance from our so-called justice system. He is now petrified that Trump might win. He might have to leave the country.
It's great to have you here because just few people know the inner workings of the FBI better than you do. And you've also personally experienced the pressure from Donald Trump.
So
and
hard, yeah.
When you see him promising this wholesale takeover of the Justice Department, I wonder how...
Wholesale takeover, that's what happens when you win the election. You get to control the executive branch. What a stupid question this is. Yes, that's why you want to win the presidency, so you can take over the justice system. Hello?
You worry about what that would look like.
Yeah, Caitlin, I mean, I worry a lot about it. And I think it's, you
Should
know,
have
when you
committed
think
crimes.
about these things and you try to predict how Donald Trump is going to react or the steps he's going to take, you really don't have to go any further than listening to the things he says and does. I mean, his comments recently are offensive and horrendous, but they're not surprising in any way. He's been saying this for quite some time. I will be your retribution is his refrain to his supporters. So, you know him, you know what motivates him. He is not a person who is driven by principle or ideology.
Yeah,
he
like you guys in the FBI?
Entirely transactional. And if he feels like he's been wronged in some way, then he focuses on revenge and vengeance. And
well, he's going to focus on prosecuting the people who committed crimes, who are trying to rig an election, who are depriving people of his rights, who are silencing and gagging him in the middle of an election. There's a lot of criminal malfeasance happening here that I think is well worth investigations, and we're looking forward to them.
So he's made it perfectly clear that that's what he's going to do. And in the process of seeking that, he runs the risk of really dismantling and greatly incapacitating the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Yes, good, because they should not be prosecuting ridiculous crimes like J6 crimes.
And that is something that Americans on both sides of the political aisle should be worried about.
No,
we depend on those institutions to protect us.
Well, what do you think it's...
And he is proposing to tear them down.
What do people inside the FBI think when they hear a comment like that?
This is a great question because this reveals what the FBI does and how they're oriented. They almost hate Trump, right? Yeah, which is why they spied on his campaign and they manufactured Russia collusion and all the things. That's why they do it.
It's terrifying. It's frightening. I have a lot of conversations with former colleagues, people who are or were in the intelligence and law enforcement community and may have worked in, the Obama administration, other places. And, people are really trying to assess, like, what is life going to be like if Donald Trump wins a second term? And on a very personal level, these are torturous discussions with their family members about whether or not they have to leave the country to avoid being unconstitutionally and illegally detained. People are actually worried about being thrown in jail or grabbed in some sort of extrajudicial detention.
You mean like Steve Bannon is? Peter Navarro is? Like they want Trump to be? Yeah.
And I think, as crazy as this sounds in the United States of America, I think people should really consider that these are possibilities. Listen to what the man says. He typically does what he says, as crazy as it seems. And that's really all the indicators you need.
He does what he says. Man, they seem nervous, don't they? He's like, hey, we're having nightly conversations about this at our households. We don't know what to do. That's what happens when the pendulum swings the other direction. What did you think was going to happen, you maniacs? Did you think you were just going to be able to prosecute one side and everybody was just going to say, oh, I guess that's justice in America? No, you didn't even find any criminality. If they would have come out and they would have said, well, look, man, Trump has like a $50 billion fund with the Saudis, or say, here's the evidence of it, and he's been, like if it was an actual crime, they wouldn't have to dress it up and sell it to us with new iterations of criminal charges in 4 different jurisdictions. Nobody believes it. If there's an actual crime, you don't have to sell it. People just understand it. But when there isn't an actual crime, it wrecks their credibility. They're manufacturing it, and now it's all collapsing upon them. And so maybe he'll flee the country. Does that make him someone who's fleeing the justice system? Of course, Donald Trump is going to get control of the justice system. That's the point. And I've never heard him say he's going to go after his innocent political opponents, but there should be repercussions for the people who have wrecked our justice system for their political ends. That is illegal. They're not allowed to be malicious prosecutors who are violating other people's rights, unconstitutionally gagging them, violating our rights to hear from these candidates in the middle of an election season, and there should be repercussions coming. So we're looking forward to it. Transcripts confirm these people are part of the cover-up. They buried the stories in order to rig the 2020 election, and now they've been caught. So shout out to everybody who's been working on this, including our friends at Marco Polo USA, Miranda Devine, many others, now confirmed the laptop is real. So if you enjoyed this video, my friends, we're going to keep talking about this because in our next segment, we've got Hunter is going to be facing new criminal charges from the DOJ if they accept the criminal referral from Congress. We'll look forward to seeing you over there on that video.